Why do Christian businesses struggle to compete?
So there's various reasons. I think there are there are many great businesses built by Christians.
Right.
So
Yeah.
first off, I think it's not a universal rule. In many ways, the West was built heavily by Christian entrepreneurs, and so I don't think it's a universal rule. I think there's a lot of explicitly Christian businesses that struggle to compete. There's a few reasons. One is, in many ways, Christian communities have often become more isolated from the networks and centers of success. So money is printed in New York effectively. The closer you are to the Federal Reserve, the easier it is to make money in an era when the Fed is wantonly printing money and debasing the currency. Typically, most of the highly Christian communities, most of the disproportionate number of Christians are not close to the Federal Reserve. They're not beneficiaries of one of the major drivers. I mean, you look at COVID and the way that COVID restrictions shut down businesses, they disproportionately shut down the sorts of real world businesses that are run in flyover states, so to speak, in the more Christian states, while the sorts of businesses that were run in New York, the banks and such, were totally immune or benefited from what was done. So you look at some situations, it's very clear that we are not run by a Christian regime, and it is favoring other businesses.
Yeah,
but I think a second one, and there's need to improvement. Christians too often are content to put out mediocre products.
Yeah.
Something labeled a Christian business, often the hope is people will buy from you because you're a Christian, and they'll do it. And what I'll give you an example of this pro-life health insurance company we invested in. I like it because it's not that. I like it because the founders are clearly experts in their industry who have a vision for a cost-effective product. They know the space very well. They know how to create something that's going to be one of the most effective, most competitive, most attractive products on the market, period. Plus, it has these values. And I just think that approach is not common enough in our space. And I think the last one is, too often Christians have adopted a view where they don't build their business as a Christian business. So they've been told effectively, they've accepted a view where they don't recognize that we're at war with the world.
Yeah.
And they build a great business. The best Christian businessmen build a great business. And then they let HR in, and they let all these other things in, and effectively let their own business be captured by the left. So either you have those who sort of make an expressly Christian business, and a lot of times they're not focused on quality, they're not focused on excellence. Those who are focused on quality and excellence, sort of the default is you accept what the best HR best practices, let's say. Well, HR best practices mean handing over your business to the left. So you have this real challenge where we need alternative doctrines of what it looks like to run a great Christian business. And there's some great examples out there. I mean, there's a guy who several people on my team work for him, ran a very, very, very Christian business, deeply Christian. Meetings began with prayer, lot of Christian culture in it. They grew a great software business, and they sold it for, I think, $400 million. So there's great businesses out there, but we need more examples for Christians.
I noticed that when I think about this, a lot of Christians, not all, of course, they start businesses with the idea of getting people saved. And
yes.
And they remind me of the blacks. Not all blacks, but the blacks start businesses with the idea of just catering to the blacks. Well, I think when you start a business, your service should be for anyone that wants it. And in that, you'll do well in business if it's open to all. Am I wrong in that?
So I would frame it a little differently, but I would say you note the problem well. The problem is often you have a motive. So if your goal is to get people saved, go back to the early conversation. You asked why people should start a business. My first answer was start it to make money.
Yeah.
If you're not starting to make money, there's a lot of ways you can go wrong. If you're starting it to save people and you're sort of secondarily concerned with making money, well, you may not have a business. Often you can build a great business by selling to a small niche of people. I don't think that's the problem. I think if they have distinct needs. So talking about selling to Black people have just, I mean, if you're building certain types of, I know a guy who built, a good friend of mine built hair care products.
Yeah.
And particularly his hair care products were sold to Black people who have distinct, I mean, it's all the way to the chemicals are different often in what's used to make it. And he had a contract manufacturing business that specialized in that. Well, that's a distinct group you're selling to. There's nothing wrong with that. You actually have a great business if you build expertise. I think the same is often going to be true of Christians in many cases. Christians might be looking for distinct Christian entertainment, but do it well. Do it to a standard of excellence. Offer something that's the best product that they could buy. But I'm with you. I don't think everyone should stop at that. I think it's good to have people who have the ambition to go for the crown and go to win the category entirely. It's a lot harder in many cases, but I think that it's more about, are you trying to dominate a space? And if you have a niche market and you understand that niche market, maybe it's niche Christian homeschoolers who want to homeschool curriculum. Well, you might be able to build a great business that earns millions of dollars there, but you should own that category. You should be offering by far the best product for those people, knowing exactly what they want. And that's going to be a great business.
I agree. So you co-founded a real estate investment firm that grew to more than $1 billion in assets. What was that like when you realized that had happened?
So it was wild time of growth. So just to be clear, I joined and I started the company, and I worked in it from 2011 to 2014 as a founding partner running acquisitions. During that time, I probably bought about $300 million worth of real estate. So it was the early stage of the growth, and I continued to be involved, but I was less day-to-day involved while it continued to grow. So I saw it but in many ways, that sort of first growth from $0 to $300 million that happened very quickly. Things were crazy. There were massive mistakes being made. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I knew we wanted to expand to Jacksonville. We were in Tampa. We started in Tampa. I saw some deals up in Jacksonville. We went and I just wanted to move. I knew that these opportunities were there. They wouldn't last. We had capital that needed to be deployed. We had great opportunities. We bought, I think, 800,000 units maybe within over a month or two. And you just could not check everything. I mean, there was a $500,000 mistake we made on replacing a roof. And it's kind of like that. Those kind of things would happen all the time. But I knew that it was probably better to act when the opportunity was right, even if we're going to have to make some mistakes, than like cross every T and dot every I and, just only do a few deals. So it's a great time to get into business when you know things are when there's when there's tailwinds, because you are going to make the mistakes, and there's no better way to learn than learn in a market where you have that margin of error, you have the tailwinds forgiving your mistakes. A lot of fun doing that, and pretty crazy stories.
Nate, let me ask, because of time here, I got to wind this up. Have you lost a lot of money along the way too?
We certainly, so I gave the $500,000 story, and that's a little one, but there were deals where I don't know that I would say we lost, partially because of how good the market was, but there were points where we were probably underwater several $1 million on deals we did. What I'm doing now, I mean, I've put millions of dollars into it. I've built networks, I've built teams, I've built other things, but that's not cash yet. I mean, it's still, I view it as an investment, and some of that investment is learning, but there's definitely been deals where I've lost pretty significant amounts of money.
And did you cry?
No.
Amazing. So listen,
I mean, first of all, it's part of it is just, I'm very focused on risk, and I don't want to take a risk. I'm not going to take a risk that would ruin me. I'll go into something and I'll know there's a range of outcomes, but that's also part of knowing how to, the more comfortable you are with understanding and managing the downside in something, and it goes to your point about having another job on the side. If you have another job on the side, you put a lot of time into something, it fails. Anyway, it sucks, but you're not ruined.
Yeah.
That is, I think it's part of it. Part of it's just my mindset. For me, it's something that I put my best into, and I've gotten very, very fortunate in some things, and I've gotten less fortunate in others.